Robert François Damiens was the last person in France to be quartered, a punishment reserved for those committing regicide under the Ancien Régime after his attempt to kill Louis XV. Let's find out more. Robert François Damiens was born on January 9, 1715 in La Thieuloye, near Arras. He was the eighth of 10 children. His father was a farmer and a prison guard. Damiens' mother died when he was 16, after which Damiens was raised by an uncle in Béthune. Robert François was a wild child, and his brothers and sisters nicknamed him Robert le Diable. Damiens served a soldier whom he had followed to the Holy Roman Empire during the siege of Philipsburg in 1734. Traumatized by the experience, upon his return he became a valet of a Jesuit college in Paris. To further his career, Damiens served many councillors of the Parliament of Paris, including the Comte de la Bourdonnais, who was bitterly hostile against the king. Damiens had a loving relationship with his wife, who was a cook, and his only daughter, who was an apprentice seamstress. He was known to be a pious person who often made drunk religious speeches. On January 5, 1757, the royal family spent the day at the Grand Trianon. Louis XV had remained at Versailles, however, as he spent time with his daughter, Victoire Marie, who was bedridden due to illness. Damiens, who had rented a sword and hat from a shop on the Place d'Armes in front of the Château de Versailles, entered the chateau among the thousands of people who were trying to get a glimpse of the king. Around 6 p.m., when Louis XV was about to embark his carriage to join his family at the Grand Trianon, Damiens rushed past the king's bodyguards, stabbed the king with a penknife, and tried to flee, but he was immediately apprehended. At first, Louis XV thought he had been punched, but soon he discovered blood on his hand. The king was struck on the right side of his body between the fourth and the fifth rib. Luckily, the many layers of clothing worn by the king due to the cold January weather protected the king from the blow, and no organs were damaged. The first interrogations of Damiens, which involved torture in order for him to confess the identity of possible accomplices, were unsuccessful. Damiens insisted he had acted alone. Although Louis XV immediately declared Damiens to be pardoned and preferred a symbolic punishment for his minor injury, this decision was not up to the king. On January 15, Damiens was charged with regicide, and it was decided that Damiens was to be judged by the Grand Chamber of the Parliament instead of the Tournelle, which was the normal room for criminal hearings. Damiens was transferred from Versailles to the Conciergerie in Paris, where François Ravaillac, the assassin of Henri IV, had also been locked up. On February 12, 1757, the trial of Robert François commenced. 10 hearings took place, and Damiens was not heard until March 26. Damiens was condemned for regicide and sentenced to die in the same fashion as François Ravaillac. On March 28, 1757, the sentence was carried out under particularly atrocious conditions. A huge crowd attended the spectacle. The executioners severely mishandled the situation as they lacked any experience with the type of execution performed for regicide. The horrible conditions of Damiens' execution would forever haunt the young executioner Charles-Henri Sanson, who was just 18 years old at the time. He was present as an assistant to his uncle Nicolas Charles Gabriel Sanson. The young Sanson was unable to carry out the task to the end, while his uncle abandoned the profession once and for all after Damiens' execution. Charles-Henri Sanson would go on to perform the execution of Louis XVI. After his death, Damiens' home was destroyed. His wife, daughter, and father were banished from France on pain of death if they returned. The king, however, felt sympathetic towards their plight and granted them a substantial pension to spare them from further misery. Other family members were forced to change their last names. It is known, however, that during the French Revolution, the Damiens family started to reuse their original last name. It has never been clear why Damiens attacked the king. Some historians deemed him to have been mentally unstable, while others consider his motives to have been of a religious nature. Thank you for watching.